Bonjour, bonjour. This is Derek Bartolacelli, your friendly conscious DJ. Here to, introduce Dissolving the Divide. This is a very special project that Leslie Powers and I have put together. This video is specifically just laying down the foundation as a primer for everyone to understand what this is about, where we're coming from, and a little bit about us. And I'm going to hold off until the outro to really give an overview of who exactly we are. And of course, our links are in the description. You can find out more about us and our work that we've been doing for over a decade apart, pretty much. So thank you so much for showing interest in this and checking this out. If you're really serious about getting involved in this in any kind of way, please contact us via the links below. So thank you so much, and enjoy. Hello, welcome, and bonjour. I'm so honored, pleased, and excited to introduce a very important series that Leslie Powers and I are trying to get into the works and build upon episode by episode, interview by interview, and go over how so many subjects of conversation, lifestyle, and beliefs and all these things have created wedges between people, and the divides seem to be being more polarized as time goes on. And I met Leslie and her partner Chris recently in Reading, and another time in San Francisco, and we've been in contact even before that. And just meeting people in person really is a game changer, at least for me, and getting to share ideas face to face, and realizing that Leslie was on the same frequency as, and trying to do a presentation regarding these subjects, and what she's produced in recent times regarding her Alive and Thriving presentation, which is phenomenal. I recommend everyone check that out. It falls so much in line with what we're trying to establish and, get at the hearts and minds of these issues. So without me blabbing on anymore, Leslie, please.
Thank you, Derek. I really appreciate being here, and I'm really excited to do this partnership for this topic, which I think is really pivotal, for the Truth and Freedom movement. And it is about dissolving the divide between people. And when I look around the world, I see all of this division and all of these polarities that are unnecessary. And then the, media and, social engineers are really capitalizing on the division between people, really increasing the division, right? So that we don't come together in unity. And because we value truth and freedom and the fulfillment of human potential, we as a humanity really need to wisen up to dissolve the divide and become unified for our own freedom and for the sanctity of our future. So this is super important. And as I'm a clinical social worker. I've worked in a lot of settings for a lot of years now. And one of the things that I just notice is that people sometimes have a hard time sitting with contradictory thoughts at the same time. There's a tendency for humans to go to one extreme or the other. Now, when one goes to the extreme, it's usually when they're under stress or they feel threatened. There's some element of an emotional pressure there, and that it's natural then for people to become defensive, to go into a fight or flight, and that it results in going to one extreme of a polarity or another. But when we're calm and we're in our sort of centered brain, we're able to think with an open mind and be able to see the complexities and the nuances of concepts and reality. So our goal here, I think, is to help bring that centered synthesis that centered mind state of equanimity, really to synthesize opposing, what seems like opposing or polar views, to bring some peace, to bring unity among us, so it's really important.
Yeah, most definitely. And just you've done this for 30 years, I want to say.
I've worked in the field, right, for that long. Yeah.
Yeah, and just it's really incredible. And yeah, people that do work like you are so needed, especially in these days and times. And yeah, especially what we've learned in recent times, or even a decade or whatever. Just learning about cosmic law or natural law and these hermetic principles that are just there. It's for us to understand and learn and abide by, live by. I call it like the science of life, codes of consciousness. And yeah, people can take it back to the word of God and everything, and the word logos and everything, and how we have these dialectics and ways of speeches and all these things when we break down the words. And when the word is derived from vibration, and then all is mind, the mind of God, or however people want to call it, the creator, all this stuff, that's a division in and of itself. But hey, it's just life, right? But the first cosmic law principle is mentalism, and people are operating on minds that are not fully controlled by themselves, unfortunately. And there's so many ways we're being manipulated and conditioned since birth. This goes back, we're suffering like generational trauma and things of that nature. And just like you mentioned, being able to center yourself and bridge these gaps within yourself, and dissolving the divides and contradictions within oneself as well. It really starts with the individual and understanding their place in the world and within themselves, and all these factors that we can just learn by observing nature and the world around us and within us. So
Yeah, I think that understanding the hermetic principles is really vital to this process of dissolving this divide, because these principles are being used against us, and most people are not conscious of that. And there are also many people are not fully conscious of their own psychology and their own mental and emotional dynamics. So there are some skills that really need to be developed and taught and promoted and encouraged to help people have these dialogues, to be able to synthesize, to have this dialectic process. So there are some basic interpersonal skills that are important as we go through these different interviews and conversations that we're going to have. And so some of this involves learning how to be mindful and present within ourselves. There's a need for us to have interpersonal skills, the ability to communicate effectively and to express ourselves and understand words and grammar. There's ability to handle our emotional distress if we get triggered, because a lot of the topics that we'll be talking about are very intentionally divisive and emotionally triggering topics. And so people have opinions on this, and for whatever reason, attachment to those opinions. So when we broach a topic that is triggering, if we're going to have a productive dialogue, we need to be aware of our emotional state, and we need to be able to manage our distress and tolerate some distress through some skills and practices. And that's the goal when we are doing these conversations. We're not here to just perpetuate the arguments. This is going to be a different approach, where we are going to be seeking the deeper understanding, using the hermetic principles and the principles of nature to bring harmony and unity and a positive evolution, a growth rather than a chaos that's happening right now in our world. So that involves an emotional regulation as well. As we're doing the interviews, as we are talking with other people about these topics, there's an area here where we need to be able to look at other points of view. We have an opinion. Oftentimes we want to share what we know and express our opinion, but we're also going to invite people to really open your minds to look at other points of view, and to remember, that we are humans. And we are seeking truth in a lot of topics, but we don't have the whole truth yet, necessarily. Like, there's a work in progress here, till we all merge into the great oneness of God. There's so many aspects here where we have to have a little bit of humility, I think, as we're having dialogue. I think it's important that we, again, in the area of emotional regulation and self-awareness, that we're really tuning into what is our own feeling and our own perspective and our own opinion, and to be aware of those things and express them verbally as such, and not claim that this is the truth when it is an opinion or a perspective. And being able to discern and differentiate between what is a perspective and what is a truth. Some of the dialectics will be answered by what is true. Sometimes there is a truth, and we may be on the path of trying to figure that out together. And people may have really strong opinions on one side or the other, but we probably, we're not there yet. So we have to be really conscious of our language.
Yeah, of course. And people have their versions of what they think is the truth and all these things. Yeah, we can really try to sift through and align towards, what is more immutable, if you will.
Right. And that can be a process, and you have to get your ego and opinionated, perspectives out of the way sometimes, to have an open dialogue, to share information and share perspectives and data or whatever, to come to a conclusion that maybe more likely different than what either pole is claiming. And the truth is often somewhere mixed within, just like many things that are being shared in religion have elements of truth, but it's not the whole truth. It's been distorted or inverted.
Yeah, and that's why we appreciate the teachings of natural law and such so much, because it really, it takes the golden nuggets from these things, like the golden rule and whatnot, and leaves all the miasma out of it, or whatever, distortions, if you will. And just digging deeper into one's soul and understanding how much we don't understand, having some humbleness about that, and just also being more open-mindedness. And Leslie and I are really trying to take a heart-based, intelligent approach to these things.
Yeah, to bring in compassion and recognize that we can have different opinions and perspectives, and we can be respectful and listen and consider and still hold a different opinion.
Yeah, and sometimes just through my truth discovery and whatever, trying to, separate fact from fiction, and also realizing like the diametric opposite of, whatever truth or opinion or whatever, and just maintaining just being in that, I guess, that sphere of neutrality of just objective observation, if you will. Because a lot of people people get triggered about a lot of stuff that they just don't even understand. And it's really unfortunate. We've all kind of been there.
Right.
It's almost been like this thing that's hardwired to, these emotional heartstrings that get pulled for certain things that goes on in the mind. And we wonder why the media pulls and plucks at those heartstrings, playing it like some kind of instrument, right?
Yeah.
Not my favorite tune, but
I think that the polarity that's created, and promoted through the media really leads to reduced compassion between people, among people. And that's the opposite of where we want to go. We want to have compassion and seek to understand a person from where they're coming from and why they think the way they do. If we're going to get along, if we're going to create a society that is, without government, and living by the principles of anarchy and natural law, then we need to learn how to get along and to have conversations about our differences. Yeah. We need to be able to have the skills to have conversations around our differences.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't understand why it's so hard sometimes. And you mentioned something with the whole media and everything, but social media has just made things just that much more like intensified and polarized, it seems. And we have, everyone knows about echo chambers. Everyone has their own, right? And it is what it is, like. It's like
I think it helps people
throw us into any kind of category, and like people, it's like it just seems to be this thing that people are programmed to always have a need to compartmentalize things so much, and not understand that things are a little bit more complex than what they appear to be.
Yeah, I think as we get into more conversation around psychology, we'll start to understand how the brain operates, and those compartments are created, right, through traumatic and stressful events in life. That's how we function in the world, is through compartmentalization. And then the world powers, again, through, if we think about the correspondence principle, they take this knowledge about how our brains work to then capitalize on that to create more compartmentalization, right? And there's also a human need to belong, to have, for basic safety, to be part of a safe community on some level.
Totally, yeah.
And that is also, I think, being exploited here, where the poles are actually like little tribes or little communities where people get their identity, they get their comfort, they get their connection, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Sorry.
What you doing there, Derek?
I had to plug in my computer. It's about to die. I thought I had that.
Uh-oh.
Up.
Can't
Sorry,
have
but,
that.
yeah, I'm definitely all ears to what you're saying, and I tend to listen even twice as much as I talk sometimes. And this is kind of this whole art of debate that I also want to exemplify while we're doing this, and being clear, calm, and composed with any kind of subject, with any kind of guest. And we're not just looking to invite people that are within our range or scope or network, or even people want to call it the echo chamber or whatever. It's like I'm trying to expand it beyond anything and reach out to, this is for all types of audiences.
Yeah. And we'll be touching all ranges of topics, and maybe we can list some. And we're inviting people. This is a call out for people who want to be part of this dialogue, and who have topics that they would like to bring to the table, so that we can kind of dissect, the issues along this these concepts of critical thinking, right, and proper proper use of the trivium, because that's involved here too, is the trivium.
Who,
And
what, where, when,
the trivium.
How?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want, I could just read a little quick of this letter that I'm writing, and I'm probably going to share it on social media. But yeah, I am speaking to the truth seekers and speakers, but also those on the other side of the spectrum who are willing to further understand, work with, and reconcile these divides woven in the fabric of society that we all seem to be entangled in to various degrees. And yeah, I've been living in France for 13 years. I've some pretty interesting perspectives of how I've changed my worldview countless amounts of times, and through my awakening process in and of itself, and completely being on a different frequency of, people call it Kundalini awakening or whatever, but yeah, I just had some really powerful energy activated within me, and it's just been like that ever since. I just can't stop. But anyways, it's, I'm just asking myself, scratching my head, like, wow, what's going on in America sometimes, and like, are things really that bad? And like, looking at my friends in like the Bay Area, which is really super liberal these days, whatever people want to call it and make of it, I'm just stating labels of how it's used, right? So the Democrats and Republicans, there's a lot of my Republican friends, so I don't even have that many, but they they're like they seem to be so isolated and like in a foreign land, because they get shunned upon because they've voted for some orange guy that, you know what I mean? It's just,
Mhm.
it's a shame that so many relationships and friendships and family feuds that just are disrupted just by politics alone. I mean, that's why I call it politricks, because we're getting tricked while they're still doing whatever they're doing. They're full of their own drama, but people are more divided and polarized than ever. And it seems like Donald Trump was one that really stirred the pot to a crock of shit to such a degree that, yeah, it's very extreme now. And you have like the whatever, like neoliberal versus the what is it, the extreme rightist, or what do they call them,
Patriots.
right wing or whatever, like, but
Yeah.
yeah. So and you and I are both like not statists. We're not supporting any form of government really, because we understand that government, the word derived from Latin gubernare and mens mentis, mente, whatever, it means to control the mind, which is why they use so much types of mind control. It's not just about government, but so many other things. You were talking about the powers that wish they'd be. They keep taking our power that we kind of tacitly give consent to and give away and all that stuff. But yeah, as far as like how we want to really view the world in a free society, or like as sovereign individuals, world citizens, how does that even look? And how do people even want to be interacting with people? How do people interact within themselves, their families, their intermediate friends, their workplaces, and this and that? We have to take it to the law of correspondence as well, from the micro to the macro. And how are these things rippling out? And how many egregores in the negative sense, and then all these negative feedback loops are just being perpetuated? And because of all the new technology and all these social media platforms, people have free range to just stand on their virtual soapbox and pop at the top of the lip as if they know what they're talking about all the time, which they don't necessarily. Folks like Leslie and I, we don't get in front of a microphone and a TV and a screen just to voice our opinions and because we want attention. No, we want solutions. We want to live better. We want to also laugh and have a good time and enjoy the happiness that we can find and create in life, which Leslie did a wonderful presentation about a couple months ago in the Convergence Conference. So yeah, that's on to you, Leslie. Yeah.
Do you want to share anything more about what you notice has changed in the U.S. from before you moved to Europe to when you returned?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have more of the Bay Area reference because that's usually where I come back home. My family lives there, and I just noticed things that just they're astronomically expensive in the Bay Area. I call it the Silicon Valley effect. It spreads like a virus, if you will. And yeah, San Francisco is the new techie town. And you look into Matrix 4 Resurrections, and you get a good idea of how their transhumanist utopia is, how they want that in a sense. Unfortunately. But for me, living in France, I just noticed that people mind their own business a little bit more. They don't have such tunnel vision. They have learned at a better educational level as far as like the global perspective of things. In America, it's much more Americentric.
Mhm.
And being back, I have reverse culture shock, and it's kind of weird. And I'm just kind of absorbing it, keeping to myself and just observing. I really have been able to do a decent amount of shadow work and introspection and inner work and all these things that for self-betterment, when I was married, and all these things for the relationship and everything in general as well. But I just noticed that being able to be isolated and pull back, that helped out a lot of just noticing things I could have noticed while I was in America as well. But it's it's weird to put my finger on certain things just because I just see people misinformed in so many ways. And it's the same in France. I mean, it's a very domesticated country as far as like the citizens are and this and that. And that's nothing against anyone individually. It's just these are the divide and conquer tactics of keeping people kind of at bay, not fully authentic within their true self. They view these people as blockheads in Europe. You saw that, European Union poster back in the day with the Tower of Babel, with literally like the people are Legos, blockheads with inverted stars, for the European Union, they inverted those on the, and they got, it's just weird. And they want us to build their edifices for them while we just slave around and bicker amongst each other,
Yeah. I think, you brought up a really important word, which is worldview. And a lot of times our worldview is very tricky. We don't even know what it is, that we have it, because we've been so immersed in the fish tank, right? The water that we're swimming in, that is our only experience, right? So for people who've only lived in the United States or only been in the Bay Area or haven't traveled and haven't exposed themselves to different ways of living and thinking, we have limitations in our perspective that we're not even aware of, right?
Yeah. That was a great conversation you had with Chris and the whole Finding Nemo, breaking it down, some allegories in there, and just some blatant like, wow, this is relatable, right?
Well, we've been raised thinking as true from birth. I mean, that's what we're up against, right? These indoctrinations, these worldviews and thoughts that we just assume as default as true. And so we're in this process of shattering the illusion of those worldviews and thoughts. And people, that's a frightening thing, right? That's frightening to have your worldviews shattered, your beliefs shattered. And so there's that's where that emotional reactivity, really gets flared.
Because that'll happen.
Exactly.
People don't want this tower to happen, but this is a beautiful card.
Yeah.
This means change. And if you take it and embrace it, it is for the better. So you're not going to be like this as much.
Yeah.
Shackled in your own chains. You could take them off anytime. They're loose. Look at that,
Yeah. Yeah. And that does involve the type of
too,
death. You got the death card? Yeah. There's a certain death that we have, and really, what is life about but millions and billions of little deaths, and changes.
Yeah. Real quick, one thing I noticed, being in France, they have a very leveled out playing field in regards to their politics and presidential candidates. And they got like 8 choices sometimes. And they all have like the same equal, like, airtime or publicity and yada yada. There's no Goldman Sachs, funding from whoever, all these people, like, it's funny, like, people put so much stock in whatever president and they'll bypass of what corporate entities are co-sign them, You know, and it's just funny, and they'll just justify like, well, we needed that for the money, so this guy, our guy, could win. You know, the lesser of evils. Or what it's like. Wow, okay, I'd rather just end evil altogether, like Chris Jensen in his
Evil.
podcast. And there's a great book by Jeremy Locke, The End of Evil, right? But anyways,
End of all evil.
so it's just funny. There in America, people think there's only a donkey and an elephant, two flavors. You know. Which is why we have this, you know, dissolving the divide graphic of we have the blue and the red, and the heart-based intelligence is going to be the new wedge that is going to just proliferate and make that divide completely green on the scene. Something like that. I hope you know what I mean. But
yeah, the heart-centered viewpoint, right? Where we're not totally eliminating the view of those extremes or polarities, right? Because that's important, that's necessary. All aspects of that continuum, you know, on the pole is important part of our reality, of our existence, and where the power lies, right? So how do we activate that power you know, for the betterment of ourselves and humanity?
Yeah, it comes down to these individual issues, because, you know, like, what we're going to be getting, the angle and approach that Leslie and I have is very thought out and quite profound, and, you know, hinging off of these eternal axioms of truth and principles and things that just are, or the isness, if you will. And we have to we always keep in mind that there's overarching issues regarding so much of all these divide and conquer dialectics or issues or subjects that people bicker and argue about all the time, like what kind of food and diets people have or whatever, right? But sometimes it really comes down to that many people don't trust themselves. They don't truly love themselves. They don't truly know themselves. They don't have full control of themselves. Either they got the shadow running the show, or just, you know, programs on top of programs and all this mind control stuff, or brainwashing, as they like to call it. And they have their, you know, dark ego attachments to certain falsehoods, and even a false understanding of themselves. And they're misinformed on a daily basis through the, you know, hypnosis box, from cherry-picked words and concepts taken out of context sometimes, and whatever. And I know I said that kind of just bam, 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 kind of harsh or cold, but yeah, this is just, look around you, you know, look within you. Have you not been like that before? I know I have. It took years of deprogramming these things out and doing the shadow work and realizing that within myself. And once you do that and pull up out of that and become more enlightened, if you will, trying to have your heart as light as a feather, word to Brennan Spencer, and then you can kind of see that and observe the world a lot more carefully and composed and accurately, and see these projections coming out from other people as well. You know?
Yes, understanding cognitive distortions, understanding logical fallacies. Those are important concepts. Being willing to ask questions. Yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, and I love what Corey Andrew has his take on just, the truth discovery and engaging conversation with people and trying to make people see certain truths or opposing viewpoints or things they didn't consider. What I think he calls it the Socratic approach of just like asking questions.
Yes.
You know, like, that's all. Just ask questions in a curious way. It's like, hey, why is this? No, it's just like, hey, why? Or, you know, just or how do you come to that conclusion with that? You know?
Yeah.
And you can really make people stutter upon their own logic sometimes and make them realize that, oh, wait a minute, I might have to look into this more and correct some things. You know what I mean? Like,
and look into ourselves more.
Debate that is so beautiful. You know, like we're trying to have fun with this. It's not this arduous type of task. And, you know, like we can laugh about certain things. We're not trying to, you know, laugh at people though. Right.
Correct.
It's just being decent and having respect, you know, and like,
yeah,
bearing in mind that, you know, anyone could be listening, you know, and we're trying to have anyone listen for sure and gain something from it, not the other way around. where
Yeah.
they're going to continue on their polarized, sides of whatever spectrum, right? So
Yeah. So there's two particular like therapeutic models in the field that I work in.
That was your dog, by the way, right?
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
she's
cute,
snoring
yeah.
over there. That's Hurley. Hurley snores and grunts and groans. She's
It's not
always
my stomach. I haven't eaten anything all day, but just to let people know. But
yes, I'll post a picture of her one of these days. But
cool.
yeah, so these two models that have influenced me are dialectical behavioral therapy and internal family systems. And so the DBT model is really looking at how human relationships are often greatly impacted by our personal trauma that leads to very all or nothing thinking and polarized emotional ranges, right? And so there's a lot of tools there that I will share from that is inspired from that model. But also I see, that a lot of these psychological models are really inspired from ancient mystery traditions and knowledge. They don't create, nothing new under the sun, right? And then in the internal family systems model, there's some qualities that I think are really valid. And so I'm going to share some of those that I think are important qualities to bring to these dialogues that we have. And it involves our presence, being present in this moment, having patience.
You mean gifted like Christmas?
Yeah,
I got a
presence.
lot of presents. No, I'm just
Lots of
kidding.
gifts in the presence.
In a
Many,
spiritual
most
way,
of
yeah.
the best gifts in life are in the present. And so being patient, having persistence, not giving up in our truth seeking, maintaining a broad perspective, being aware of perspective, and being playful, bringing the fun in. And then there's an aspect of being curious. To seek understanding, we need to be curious. We need to be open to maintain a certain level of calm, to keep our minds as clear as possible from all of our internal chatter and emotional hijackers, right? And to have a sense and an overarching awareness of our interconnectedness, our connection to source, our connection to each other, and to have courage to maybe broach a topic that's controversial or voice a perspective that's not popular, to develop strength, and to develop our confidence in ourselves, right? To be able to speak from to be authentic in our voice and to be confident in that expression, to be and from this space then we can be creative, and it is the creative process that can come out of this dissolving the divide. It's ultimately creating a new world, a new, better way of living. Yes, to be the magician, and then through that having compassion. Yeah, it's awesome, right? I like you have those tarot cards. They're all ready.
Yeah, totally. I was flipping through just the major arcana and kind of like, what applies to this? Because we've all been the fool. We're all, we're starting this journey today, like to make, this happen in real life, and just go where it takes us, and but not be the fool, enchanted by, the daisy of death. We're gonna listen to the wise wolf, and
Yeah, we're not
I'll
just
walk
going
on
to
the
leap mindlessly into the
We could be sage as
high
the
priestess.
priestess, staying centered within the two pillars of enlightenment.
Yeah.
And I also see that as, being able to like be within duality, but also step away from it. Like she's in that neutral point as well. In a
And
sense.
opening the door, she's sort of the guard to the door of that synthesis, of that, process that we're entering.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. And we all have to maintain that temperance of, understanding these different viewpoints and seeing it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
We've been there before, and whatever dark nights of the soul, and
The
Howling at
shadow
the Moon,
work.
and not understanding like the dualistic nature of things sometimes, or whatever. And
You got the justice card ready?
I'm almost done, but yeah, you gotta it really takes
Definitely.
time to be by yourself and just reconcile certain things and just observe certain things, and being out of the influence of like even the television or your friends or all these other opinions that aren't necessarily yours,
Be
and being able to
introspective.
meditate on these things and pull back from
Yeah.
everything, all the noise and minutia and everything
Yeah.
going on, and even
See
your
in
own
the
malarkey, right? Yeah, so we are, yeah,
dark.
it's a risk, we're gonna spin the wheel and see how things go with this, and everything, keeping everything in mind. And we do feel fortunate to understand, certain levels of this knowledge to this point, and we are kind of blowing the horn and making a calling for everyone to, you're all invited
Yeah.
to participate, just do your thing in life, and understand the codes of consciousness, justice, weigh the scales in perfect harmony within yourself, and just try to have that care and compassion for other people. You cannot escape law. We cannot escape law. No one is above truth. Everyone, Leslie and I, we're all held accountable to what is, and just the laws that govern the universe, and how you and I verse matters, right?
Yeah. The you and I verse. Which is the card that has the people coming out of the caskets?
The judgment card.
Judgment.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the one I was thinking of. The judgment. Yeah. Yeah. We're waking up the dead. We're coming out of our illusion. We're hearing the clarion call. And
Ooh, yeah.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. And it's, yeah, nothing religious or imperial with that red cross, but yeah, so
What's next, Derek?
say again.
What's next?
What is next? So yeah, I was mentioning, all these overarching issues and things to really consider with everything, and yeah, we kind of went over the hermetically sealed principles that people really need to keep in mind, and 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 I mentioned the pillars of enlightenment: the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. The sacred feminine is the non-aggression principle, and in this context as well, and just for people's context in life, it's the non-violent communication way of communicating with people, and even having that proper inner dialogue within yourself. Because if you're not having that good within yourself, and you might be projecting some stuff on other people.
Mm-hmm.
Divisions is how it happens, or just it's simple, just like pissing people off, and like we're just like at odds with people for whatever reason. It's not just about like arguing about a certain thing. People can just be assholes for like, so.
Yeah, we may say some things that are inaccurate or wrong,
Yeah,
and we're open to challenge or open to someone to correct a wrong. And I think that the bottom line, though, is that we do it in following that non-aggression principle, in concept. And then, of course, the alternative, well, the other aspect of the pillar is the self-defense principle. So where we do have that right to hold a boundary or to say no, or to maintain an aspect of our what would you say, Derek, like we don't need to be if someone is violating us with words, we certainly have the right to stop that.
Yeah, sure. And I like to look at it as like the warrior in the garden or something like that.
Yeah.
We're always ready, like, but we're tending the garden and tending the fires within ourselves. But that comes with a lot of discipline, honor, and staying true to one's word. Like we had a great talk with Chris on that. But yeah, it's also kind of like just saying no to evil, upholding truth, and holding yourself and others accountable. If,
Yeah.
on the accountability aspect of if it's, might be causing harm to other people, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And also saying no to um, distractive rabbit holes, distractions that bring us down rabbit holes that are taking us away from the ultimate goal of freedom and getting us out of our slavery, right? So sometimes we may say, you know what, that's going too far down a rabbit hole that is like a cul-de-sac or a distraction. And so, we may be bringing it back to, and I think we will be bringing it back. Like, what is this, the value of this in relationship to our freedom, to our quest for truth and freedom and the ending of slavery? Because ultimately that's our goal.
Yeah, totally. Because in case people didn't realize, there are certain priorities that we should be keeping in mind, as far as, what the focus is on, life purpose. We don't want to be living in this world of where, like, it costs like $4 for a head of lettuce now. Like, did we lose some kind of war with the agriculture and stuff? And yeah, we understand the weather is whatever, and we're going to get into these divisions of people that don't agree or see that there's geoengineering and manipulation of that, going on around, and how that is more of a big deal about how one's belief on the shape of the earth is. They think it's the most important thing in the world, when there's people starving, in their neighborhood, probably. Other
Yeah.
people have priorities or whatever, but it's nothing against them. It's just like, hey guys, like,
Yeah.
get that clarion call.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, we have this like false duality overlay almost, and like I kind of like that the Masonic tracing board of, you see Jacob's ladder and trying to climb that, and be at the center of enlightenment, within the two pillars of enlightenment. But we got to climb out of that box, that base level consciousness, that the checkerboard, the duality, the black and white, right?
Yeah. Well
So
said.
yeah, we can, and it's about, we can hold each other's hands while we do this, not like we need training wheels. It's not to baby people or this and that. It's just like being gentle with one another, and understand that language has been the battlefield that they've kind of manipulated the chessboard on to, pit us against each other. And we're waging war on each other with swords. And if you just take the S off, those are words, right? So yeah, it's just interesting in how one needs to understand that, yeah, the sword is symbolic of intellect, intelligence, if you will. And if people aren't wielding their swords properly, then their words might be falling a little short, or not, being able to properly articulate whatever. And I've had my issues because I've been learning French for so long and just like forgot about English for a minute, which is just kind of funny. But it's just this art of debate. I want to bring back those times where, like, the philosophers could actually like be at a round table and have discussions and bring forth their ideas without getting stoned to death or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yes. Yes, so much, right? I think a lot of us hunger for that type of philosophical debate and dialogue, and it does have a place and a value that's generally been minimized in our society. When I was in high school and the guidance counselor invited me in to ask me what I wanted to major in college, right? And I said philosophy. And he said, well, that's not practical. That's not going to get you a job, So I had my backup psychology ready, but in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I knew you were going to say that, but I'd say it anyway.
That's funny. That's great, but like learning psychology, that would help. That helps the job that you've held for so long. And
Well, and philosophy is very intertwined. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And even me growing up, like, I thought philosophy is like, oh, it sounds so nerdy and this and that, but no, it's like when like, Manly P. Hall is one of my favorite philosophers or mystics or whatever, if you want to call him. and just like, yeah, taking that approach of like learning about philosophy and just what he speaks about, it's just really fascinating, and you can apply so much to it to improve your life.
Yeah. And I think
And others,
psychology and philosophy have been those occulted traditions. I think that with intention have been occulted, because they are holding the master keys to our lives, our spirituality.
Hmm. Yeah, so it'll be interesting and kind of fun to try to, make these things more popular, even through these, discussions that we'll have with dissolving the divide as well.
Yeah.
That'll be something. So yeah, other things, overarching issues. I know, geez, we're coming up on almost an hour, so I just wanted to get some of these notes out here and let people understand like what needs to be kept in mind when, even for yourself. But this is a primer as far as like what we're going to be getting into and talking about and referencing from, because if you don't understand where we're coming from, you might not catch certain things in certain discussions in the future. So yeah, going back, there's so many overarching issues going on within the whole spectrum of how these dialectics or divides on subjects are happening, and like, yeah, the language is the battlefield in a lot of ways, and because what words and phrases have been so weaponized and used, and even inverted, perverted, as far as certain definitions. We really have to keep etymology in mind with certain things. And yeah, the mind control, the methods of manipulation, there's trauma-based mind control, there's scarcity-based mind control, emotional mind control, right? Pulling at the heartstrings, and if people are operating from that limbic, yeah, it's not, you don't have the unity consciousness. It really goes back to mentalism and having that unity consciousness, the three tiers of your brain, the neocortex, the limbic, and the R complex. You were mentioning earlier, Leslie, about how people are so much in the fight or flight. That's being stuck on the R complex, the root. Those are like our primal instincts. And if people are just going from that to limbic and, knee jerking around from their emotions, not using that higher quality of thought, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not going to go well with people's interactions with things that they don't want to, like, yeah, what they get triggered on or don't understand, or,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, so there's all these different types of conditioning that people have been subjected to since birth. And, these pendulums, and yeah, even psyops, and we have to talk about the Hegelian dialectic, the problem, reaction, solution, something that's been already, made before we even knew about it. But yeah, as far as like, these pendulums and like the trajectory of, where the world is going, or, like you see how things trend as far as popularity, and like, oh, almost everyone's doing this and that. You mentioned in one of your presentations that I wanted you to expand on real quick with us, about like locus of control, and how that has like a big influence on things, and
Yeah.
how that plays into what I'm saying as well.
So there's a concept of locus of control, meaning that where do we perceive the power comes from? Where does it lie? Is it coming from internal within ourselves? Do we have an internal locus of control to make change in our world? Or do we see it as only an external power? An external locus of control would be feeling relatively small or powerless, and seeing that the solutions and the power lies outside of us. And that's really important, because to make the changes that we are really striving for, it involves people developing a much stronger internal locus of control, and recognizing their own power. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not external controls, because there are, right? It's not one or the other, but but we need to look at ourselves and see where are we putting the locus of control in any situation or a matter that we're attending to. And are we actually embodying, embracing, and recognizing the true potential power that we have within us to be change agents, to be creators in this world?
Yes, totally. I love it. Yeah, I love how you articulate some things, Leslie. It's really well thought out and articulated and educational. Like I've learned a lot from you already just since like the summer. It's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Yeah. That locus of control I talked about with Corey in the End of Slavery Summit. So there's more on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great conversation you had. I checked that out while it was live, I believe. So yeah, that's cool. So yeah, just real quick, I know like we could spend like hours just talking about certain things and these overarching issues that we're all trying to just synthesize in here and kind of run with it with just, I mean, this is just how we're deciphering reality as well and just observing things and people and always having these things considered when, talking with other people. And we have to understand that, and maybe you've been there before, but yeah, people have a very hard time admitting that they're wrong or that they've been duped, and it's hard for them to let go of these falsities or whatever.
Yeah.
And also, it's like with the whole polarization and social media and snowflakes or whatever people say, it's like people are incredibly easily offended these days.
Yeah.
It just seems like people have a lack of life skills. I was talking to Crip Rick about this, of just as far as, people communicating way too much in the digital world, not being able to have a, proper conversation, face to face in real life type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's like getting out of their echo chambers from the digital world and having to like what's going to happen in real life kind of thing, like.
Yeah, your nervous system will respond differently in live situations, and we all need to be equipped to handle that. There's a veil between us and the screen here, and each other that's false. And we could become very effective, in this digital world. But we have to make sure that we develop our skills in live, in-person interaction. It's a whole nother game.
Yeah, I've been so disgusted with how people communicate on the internet for a long time, and I've just tried to take the approach of communicating with people the same way I would in real life, like to their face.
Yeah.
Not like, and as I go about that as well as talking behind someone's back. Well, if they're not in the room and I say something about them, I really want to make sure that what I say is still going to be something that I feel good with saying to their face. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be like having that contradiction, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
So
integrity too is what that is.
And yeah, what I want people to understand as well is that Leslie and I have spoken with hundreds and thousands of people in real life. Leslie, I don't know like what your count is of how many clients you've had over the 30 years, but I'm guessing like tens of thousands, maybe.
I have no idea. Yeah.
Because I've had like over 100,000, interactions with people in real life. I've worked in restaurants and in bars and stuff for 15 years. 10 of them or a dozen of them were in France. And yeah, it was pretty interesting, and just having to alchemize so many situations, on the fly. Someone doesn't like any food or this and that. It's like, hey, I'm not offended. Like, I don't take these things personal, like even if they're directing at me and like, breathing down my neck, I'm like, whatever, like, but I would get to a point where I would love to try to, flip the script and make them, leave with a smile on their face. I know I understand these things and it's not about me. I just want to understand why people are upset and find solutions towards, correcting that wrong or mistake or whatever, like no one's perfect. And so being able to have patience with people, even if they're in that fight or flight mode, like has given us so much training to be able to be on a platform like this and be
Yeah, I
confident
agree.
enough to speak with people like this. So yeah,
Yes,
I'm really
yes.
grateful that you're on this level, Leslie, for sure. Yeah, and
Thank
like,
you. I
yeah,
feel
it's
the
really
same.
impressive. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm not
Thank
even
you.
on your level. It's not about that, but yeah, the combination of us is something that I also wanted to mention of just the sacred masculine and feminine, even though it's a fluid thing as well, and just having that balance for other people to see as well, I think is going to be pretty cool, as you know. So
Yeah, I'm very excited about this project. Really want to invite people to reach out to Derek or I if you're interested in being a part of the dialogue, part of the conversation. If you have a topic that you want to focus on, let us know. We want to set up interviews, and conversations.
yeah, and we have a whole bucket list of subjects and ideas as well, in case like you want to reach out to us but you're not quite sure what. Yeah, just we can give you some ideas to work with, and also we have like a list of like 15 questions that we're looking to kind of have as a template to go over with each guest. Just keep it interesting, and we have a format that's, it's not your typical podcast, but yeah, we're going to throw in some images as well. Leslie has made some really wonderful slides that are very informal. That's it. Yeah, informational,
Informative.
informative. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I had a French glitch, and I thought for a second, yeah. So yeah, we're just looking to. This is solution oriented, in and out, all so yeah.
All
Anything
right.
else, Leslie?
I think we covered it. I think we covered the main points. Yeah, we're ready to wrap her up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and you will hear from us quite shortly. So yeah, take care out there. Much
So,
love.
Derek, where's the best place for people to reach out to us?
Oh yeah. So we have the Conquering the Divide YouTube channel, and I'm gonna have a page on my website, I believe. You can have one on yours if you want, Leslie. We might even start a Facebook group, or even like a Telegram group. I know Facebook isn't that popular anymore, but
Yeah, let's hit it all. So, is the YouTube that you developed saying conquering or dissolving?
dissolving. Oh yeah,
Dissolving the divide.
totally.
So,
Yeah. Because before, playing around with the whole title and all these things, it takes a lot of time to brainstorm, right? So yeah, in my mind, I just wanted to flip the script on all these conquering the divide and conquer strategies. I wanted to flip the script and I wanted to conquer these divides in a sense, but at the same time, it's like having that approach. It's just like, it's like we're not on this crusade. We're not trying to like strong arm the situation, and we're not going to be just getting on these soapboxes just to yell at people. That's not what this is about. That's not what our intention is at all. And that's not what we're not trying to allow our guests to do, anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good point. All right.
Ciao for now, everyone. Thank you so much. And look forward to hearing from you and seeing you later.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for listening and looking forward to this process. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, Leslie, thank you so much as well.
All righty.
Alright, so what do I do exactly? I've been mixing conscious hip-hop and other genres of music for a decade now. Over 100 mixes, spanning over 150 hours, and I've put together some other videos. I've done video editing, vlogs, podcast interviews, things of that nature. And I'm a conscious content creator of a wide variety of things, and I like to expand the repertoire and portray expressions of truth in a multitude of ways. And just trying to stay firm to the foundational codes of consciousness, natural law, balance, harmony, justice, truth, those types of things, hermetically sealed eternal principles and axioms of truth, which is what Leslie Powers is about as well. And she's been helping people and doing a practice of over 30 years as a social worker, from helping to guide and heal victims of all sorts of trauma, to mentally ill people, to coaching individuals to a better state of mind and lifestyle. She's a mother, teacher, philosopher, presenter, researcher, and natural law enthusiast, where she's a part of the One Great Work Network, and has recently laid out her monumental synthesis of the dozens of years of learning and research that has refined what she and her company Alive and Thrive is all about, which is for the betterment of humankind. We're both aligned in many ways regarding hermetically sealed principles and all that stuff, as I mentioned. And we're just curious and compassionate and looking to evolve and better ourselves and ripple that out for other people as well. And we do want to bridge these gaps that have people divided so much. And we've even, sought out guidance and mentors ourselves, and we've actually, both have been initiated into the Blue Flame Healing Arts and Occult Science, and that's much love and respect to Seth Esposa, the founder of that, and wonderful teacher. And last but not least, paths Leslie and I have crossed and coincided. We were on the Libercast chats for a couple times, and most recently the End of Slavery Freedom Summit, hosted by Corey Andrelet and Aaron Butler, and descriptions and links to all that in the show notes. So it's been quite a journey just this year alone, and crossed paths with her, meeting up in her with Reading and then San Francisco. So it's just it's a wonderful thing. And myself being back in America for the past year, I'm looking to link up with people, like-minded people. I'm a journeyman. I'm a spiritual alchemist. I'm one who's trying to, get people in contact with each other, teach one, each one teach one, that kind of stuff. And I've already built a decent foundation of what I've done over the past decade, and I'm looking to just expand so much more on that, and also possibly be some kind of way shower and do, life coaching things such as Leslie Powers and the Mario Wests, and even Seth Esposa. So thank you so much for tuning in and checking this out, and please get a hold of us if you are serious about working with us. And it's not that hard to work, but we want to have a decent type of conversation and dialogue, and calm and composed. You can have compassion, but we're trying to be respectful for all sides of the spectrum. So calling people a sheep and all that stuff isn't gonna fly, really. Save that for Facebook and whatever, right? Just kidding. But that's just like a type of divisive language in and of itself, whether it's true or not. We don't have to use that language. And like I mentioned, language is the battlefield. Mais oui, les amis. Merci beaucoup pour aujourd'hui, and Happy New Year and all that good shit. Peace.